Hello and welcome to In the Pocket, the bass guitar podcast where we get the low down on the low end. My name's Chris, a totally average bass player, and you may notice this week that something is a little different.
Help! He's got me at gunpoint. Something's happened. What are you doing? This guy butting in on here. Trying to take my spot.
This is my podcast now, Johnny. This is mine.
You've got very small to medium shoes to fill here, I'll have you know. Thanks, Chris. That was a wonderful, wonderful intro. You might, like Chris said, realise that things are a little bit different. We're shaking things up. Chris is back. First time we've had, I was going to say a guest back, like twice in a row. But, you know, things are going to be changing from here on. I'll hear you say it. The lovely people, you know, said, Chris, you and Chris have got such lovely chemistry. It's just such a lovely time we had listening to your podcasts. And I'd like to, you know, formally welcome Chris as like the co-host, if you like, or semi-regular. You know, we're going to be. It's never going to be me by myself anymore. I don't think, because they're boring. We don't want that. Just me talking to myself, and for my own mental health. I don't think that I can take that for much longer, just sitting in a room talking to myself. So, Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being alive and being my friend over the internet.
Well, thank you for having me for a third time. You know, they say you play every venue twice, once on the way up and once on the way down. And this is my third time on your podcast. So, I don't know what that means. Am I going up even further, lower than ever before? We will see.
Well, as we get the low down on the low end, I would like to say that you're on the low one now, on the way down.
Thank you.
On the way down.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Amazing. Right, let us crack straight on then with our first question. This first question comes from Chad on Instagram. Thank you so much, Chad. A good friend of the show. Always putting in questions, which I love. Question 1 says, what is your favourite pickup configuration? So, pickup configurations, you can go P, J, J. Well, I suppose, hang on, J. A jazz-based pickup configuration is called JJ, right?
JJ.
Yeah. I was just like, a J. I was like, oh, there are not many basses just have a J.
A J Jonah Jameson. A P, a PP.
Stop there. I've never played a PP. I mean, I've played with a PP in my time. You know?
Hang on a minute.
We're only like less than 5 minutes in. We've already
3 minutes and 5 seconds. Stop the tape.
Oh god, this is why you're here, to keep you under control. No PPs on this pod. P double P. Oh, that's not even
double
better.
P. It's
not
PP.
Even better.
Let's just stick with PP. They do exist, don't they? Because Ivan Thingy has got one. What's his Carranza.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound
previous
good
guest of the show.
Yes, exactly. Great YouTube channel as well. He's got I can't remember the name. Is it a GNL?
GNL, yeah, custom one.
GNL.
Yeah,
GNL PP.
And PP is something that feels like it shouldn't work, but really does. I think anyway, sound wise, like there's a Fuji Gen 1, and there's actually an affordable Revelation. You know the brand Revelation?
No.
They're like cheap ones, a bit like vintage, where you get them in like your little music shops on the high street. And they do, it's all like P bass and jazz bass copies. I've owned a jazz bass from there, and they do a PP. And I've always thought that, you know, it's something that they look horrific. I think PPs. Ivan's is probably the best one I've seen. They just look wrong, but they sound really good. I think surprisingly, because you know, my go-to answer for this question normally is a PJ, because out of like pickups that fit nicely together, I feel like that's the best combination. That being said, I do have a bit more of an opinion on this, but I'll let you answer now. and I'll shut up. So, what's your opinion on pickup configurations?
You, co-host, answer question now. I actually thought you were going to say PJ, which is why I prepared a bit of a counter argument for you. So, I don't know whether this is just my experience with the particular pickups, particular basses I've personally played that are a PJ. I like a PJ, I like a J, and I like a P, but I never find that the PJ sounds as much. I have to think about how this sentence works now. I've never found PJ bass to do the P bit as good as the actual P bass, and then a PJ never seems to sound just that right sound as a J bass. Because I've just gone back to use the J bass for like quite a few of my gigs. I've got a Squier, I think it's the Classic Vibe.
One of the older ones, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite old. It's from 2004, and I got it. So it's almost vintage, I guess. And I got I got it second hand off of like an ex-band member. Now it's got EMG pickups in it, which is probably worth about 6 times the value of the actual bass. But I've come back to that because I was like, this is really scooped, but I'm getting a really nice upper mid-range, which seems really complimentary. Like, I'm really enjoying it. Like, kind of like 800 to 1.5k kind of thing. Sits in the mix really well, basically. But my Aerodyne, which is a PJ, seems a little less scooped. That'll obviously be the P pickup in there, but it doesn't quite sound as like honky in a good way, like the P bass would. It's almost like it does its own thing, even though it's supposed to be a bit of both. That's my counter argument to the PJ.
Yeah, I always find that they add it just gives you a bit more top end, and I've had moments sometimes, and this is, this shouldn't be right, and I feel a bit wrong for saying it, where well, I've gone, oh, that's a good sound, that's quite a mid-ish sounding Stingray. Oh, it's a PJ. What the fuck? I've been tricked before, and it sounds wrong because Stingray is such a like iconic sound. I've gone, oh yeah, that sounds like a humbucker. Oh wait, no, it's not. And that's why I think that you get some good versatility out of that setup. For me, I never ever use the bridge pickup on a jazz bass by itself. Not for me, that sound.
No, not for me either. I'm not Jacko.
No, exactly. And you are right that when you've got the PJ bass, even when you roll off the J pickup, I don't know what it is, you just never get that P bass feeling, I don't think.
There is like a scientific reason, I think, why it sounds a little bit different. It's the reason why sometimes single pickup Charvel guitars are so popular. Like, why does the humbucker with no other pickup, even if it's rolled off, sound different? It's because there's more wood, basically.
Yeah.
So
if you take you were going to say that.
Yeah. If you take a P bass, for example, there's no routing where that J bass pickup would be. There's no routing for cables to go over to like pick guard, control pot. Just a bit more weight. It's like I watched a comparison of a double pickup Stingray versus the single pickup Stingray. And even with just that bridge pickup soloed, it sounds different.
You're totally right. And often, I don't tend to prefer it when there's less. Fuck's sake. When there's less wood, I don't prefer it, unless it's a PP. I feel like if you're gonna have a bass, have it do that sound. I never really see versatility in pickup configurations being something that I'm after. Like, I don't want a bass that's going to do everything for me. I can see the appeal of that, but for me, I never want that. I'm a person that has wants to have lots of basses and have them do their own thing, rather than have something that can do everything and sacrifices, a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. I'd rather have, what's the opposite of that? Masters. Masters just of that. Something. Yeah.
My favorite Metallica album.
Ah, nice.
Masters of something.
Masters of something. I don't know. So yeah, I just think for me, pickup configurations. We've kind of gone on a bit of a tangent on this one, where I do like, I like PJ if you're going to have any configuration. I'm not really counting JJ as configuration here, but I feel like combinations of pickups. I don't really like PH. I haven't really played enough JH. HH, yeah, fine, but I'd rather just have that bridge humbucker because I never solo the bridge one. I solo the neck one. And then
I
yeah,
think
so
if I was given strict has to be a combination of two, I would go PJ because they do sound good together. They do. I don't think they sound as good on their own as the thing they are homaging.
Yes.
But if we adjust the question slightly, like the politician I clearly am deep down, and if it was just your favorite pickup, your favorite, just a combination, specification, would you go just P or would you go for jazz bass?
Oh, out of the old PVJ.
Yeah, or if you had to, because I mean, again, I'm cheating. If I was asked, you can have a bass and it's got pickups in it, but you just need to decide what those are. It doesn't have to be two. It can be one pickup. It can be a P. It can be a Stingray. I would go Stingray. I would go humbucker.
That is tough.
Or P, maybe P.
It's between those two for me.
Yeah.
I go through phases like everybody does. At the minute, I'm on a P bass hype, and my Stingray isn't getting much love at the moment, but that will change because I've said to myself I want to buy an American Stingray this year. So when I hopefully get around to getting that eventually, I'll be like, yes, it's the best thing in the world. At the minute, it's all down to the P, baby.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a reason why it's still so popular now, and it was the first bass because quite literally they did pretty much nail it. I would say pretty much. No, you know what? I actually feel the same. My Stingray is getting a little bit of less love over the last 2 weeks, despite a video of it going viral. But
being shared by the old favorite album band.
Exactly, yeah, everyone's favorite unsigned band, Metallica, sharing one of my reels. Whee! To the relatively niche following of 9.1 million. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, because I did a gig like 2 weeks ago, do a jam night, and I do a jam like a blues trio, and then we get people on to play. And someone got on stage to play my Stingray, and I have no idea how they've done this. Thing's built back like a tank. They've ripped one of the knobs off.
What?
They've broken my PP.
My God, they ripped your knob off. Bloody hell.
Yeah, the mid-range control. I can only assume he's been on stage and the bass doesn't go through the PA at this gig. There's an house amp and it's a big loud thing. So we don't bother putting it through the PA because it is a bargain. So I can only assume the guy couldn't hear himself very well. Because I can't hear myself that well on stage. But I'm doing that because otherwise, if I turned it up to a volume I'd be happy with, the singer wouldn't be able to hear himself, and that is worse. That's more of a problem. So I'm willing to take a backseat. So I can only assume he's not been able to hear himself. He's turned all the controls up, and he's just sort of popped my knob. So yeah, that's not great. But
Wow.
so it's taken a backseat the last few weeks.
That really sucks. Is it just that is it snapped off, or?
Yeah, luckily though, it's just the cover, that kind of like chrome bit that sits on the actual knob.
Okay.
So
you can still.
But the screw has disappeared, and it's that bit is broken. So I think I'm gonna have to kind of like find someone I know or buy a replacement screw so I can screw my knob back on and all that sort of stuff. Okay, this is too many knob jokes now, even for me and you. But anyway, I digress. I would go for a Stingray style pickup, maybe a P, if I had to choose my favorite.
Well, that's why, I'm so sad that I don't really like PH basses. For me, I'd be like, that's got to be the best combination, those two. But it's that thing again. When they're solos, they're doing a half job at both, and then when they're together, they just counter each other. Because of the mid-range of a P bass is what makes it so iconic and makes it fit so well, I think. And then the Stingray is kind of the opposite in its, the mid-range is so important in both of those sounds, where the Stingray is way more scoop sounding.
It's in two different places, isn't it? It's like
exactly
your P bass is really pushing for that kind of like 400 to 800 kind of honk, and your Stingray can't do that. But Stingray is a little bit higher up, so yeah, that would sound like the kind of thing where it's like, well, I can't really have them both on at the same time, kind of just too much. But I've never tried one. I really wanted to try one. I think because the Rammstein bass player, his signature, what's the brand? Drawn a blank. Big company, like real big. Oh, what's it called? Not Stramberg. The other one that starts with S.
Steinberg?
No, not them.
Sandberg.
Yeah, there we go.
That one. That's what the Harley Benton one's modelled after. So
yeah,
that's all. They're all like JH or PH bases.
JH makes no sense.
I've had one, and I feel like it could work if it's ones with like the big magnet pole pieces, like what's in Stingrays, those ceramic ones. They give this bigger sound, I think. And I had a court bass that did that, but again, it was that same thing where it just didn't sound that good overall. I didn't think. Right, that's been a bloody lengthy discussion about pickup configurations. And I think we've kind of covered 2 questions in there as well, which is good going by us. Let us move on though to the news. Welcome. It is time for the news. So it's been actually a really heavy news week. It wasn't looking like it was until literally yesterday. Loads of news broke, and then today more news has broken as well. Literally like an hour before hitting record on this, I got sent a news article from someone and was like, "Oh snap, cool." I'll start. I'm going to mix up the list that I sent you, Chris, because I'm going to do it in order. So one that was a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, that I missed, the new Ernie Ball basses, so all the Music Man range, they've got the new full range of the Ball Family Reserve basses. So we've talked about these on the show before. These are basically some custom models that have been made super low numbers, so they're up in the $2,000 to $3,000 price range, which is crazy, but they often come up with some really, really cool releases. So, and one of them actually might be one of my favorite Stingrays that I've seen. I just think it's so cool. Have you seen these, Chris?
I'm actually trying to find them on the website right now, and I can't find anything.
They don't make it easy. Oh, if you go at the top,
is it in the blog?
Listening, it is. No, it's in BFR. What they do, they've released 2 new guitars and 2 basses. So we've got a 4-string Stingray in natural with all black hardware, and this insane looking, it's almost like it's roasted maple, but I'm trying to see how they describe it, because it's almost like a tiger. God damn it, it's so good. This neck, into this natural body, double humbucker, and wood. Like engraved knobs as well. It looks really cool. On the other side, we have got similar kind of style neck on this all white 5-string Stingray, bringing it in with all gold hardware as well. So quite contrasting looking basses, despite having some similar features, but really, really cool, I think. I keep thinking that the white one is a fretless, because the finish on it, because it hasn't got any inlays, makes it look like you can't see what's going on. Playing that, if you were relying on looking at it, would be a nightmare, I think.
That is an impressive flame. Like,
right?
Wow. Yeah.
It's insane. Insane flame. And like on the 4-string, the slugger, they call it, which apparently is to do with American baseball, because that's called a slugger, big bit of wood. I've been told this by people online. It's got these unique striped ebony wooden control knobs. Really cool feature. They released the slugger in a 5-string previously, which looked mind-blowing, I thought. And yeah, I'm really happy to see that it's come over into the 4-string version. Fall 2021. Oh my god, that was a year ago that they released the 5-string. That's crazy. I absolutely love these basses when they do this. Some of them, when they come out, you're like, that is awful. I hate this. It looks so bad. And then some of them are just incredible, I think. And, we'll never see an affordable version of this. And these will be super, super low numbers. And I think they're about $3,000. So, oh yeah, $3,200. So, Chris, do you think you're going to buy one?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm just looking at Barclay card rates at the moment, see what I can do. That, out of the two, for me, the Slugger is infinitely cooler. But that's obviously just me. I mean, I do like the other one, but I think the Slugger is so much cooler. I mean, we were just talking about pickup configurations. I would obviously personally prefer that to be a single humbucker instead of two. But I don't know, maybe if I ask nicely, they'll fill it with MDMF for me.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, oh, yes, please.
Not even fill it, just slap it on top.
Yeah, literally with a hammer, just smash it in, completely ruin it. Yeah, the neck is insane. Although also, I'm going to say some heresy right now, and I'm terribly sorry. If you scroll down the page a little bit, there's a guitar.
Oh, yeah. Are you on about the
that Sabre HT? That is pretty tasty.
That is ridiculous looking, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That is crazy. It literally looks like they've chopped down a tree, haven't treated it at all. It's a tree. Done. And it looks crazy. The grain on that. Go and check it out if you haven't already. I'll try and remember to put a link in the comments on this because
please do. Or you'll be like me and you'll never find it.
Yeah, because damn, those pearl inlays as well. Ooh. But anyway, we don't want to talk about that. We're bad boys. Okay, next up, Court just seemed to float under the radar as well. I had to look for this release. They've released some new jazz basses. I can't remember what they're called, which just goes to show.
I found it. I think I found that one.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I think they're
like
the new jazz standard, the NJS series, the Court Elric. These look like they are 4 and 5 strings, just in black and white. I used to, I do like Court. I don't know if I like these though. They've it's a jazz bass, and I always appreciate when somebody tries something a little bit different with the standard shapes. But this one's kind of done that thing, that 6-string Ibanez or one of the Ibanezes that's got the massive bit of wood on the wing at the top that goes halfway up the fretboard. It looks like they're trying to do that with this one. And yeah, it puts me right off. And there's like a million knobs, or what looks like a million knobs going off. Actually, 1, 2, 3. There's only 5. That's not even that many.
Yeah,
but somehow it looks like loads.
Yeah, it's because that cutaway, at the bottom comes in so much, and then it shrinks the pick guard so much as well. It then makes, and also they're in a very strict row of 5, which obviously makes them stand out even more. But I mean, the functionality of what they are is quite normal. It's volume blend and then bass, middle, and treble. Yeah. But they should have probably put them in a curve round the body instead, and then also maybe get a stacked pot instead, for maybe the treble and the mid, or the mid and the bass, or whatever. Or maybe you could stack volume and blend, and then stack.
Yeah, I think those two make sense because they're kind of set and forget, aren't they? You're not really going to go between them. They're Bartolini pickups as well, which is fine. Not for me, but pretty cool. They look like pretty high-end basses, really. I'm trying to get a price up on them. Like I said, they just come in black, all black. It's a shame they haven't got black. It's got white perloid inlays. I wish that was black inlays as well, because it looks cool on the white one where it's all white.
I've just clicked on the black one, and it's really, you'd want those to be black, like your 70s jazz bass kind of thing. Yeah. It just looks it looks great on the white, don't get me wrong, because it is white, but the black one just seems too jarring. And but the bridge looks good as well. Just looking at the specs, it looks looks like it's got a decent quality bridge. It's got a 5 bottleneck, 5 screws, which is quite good.
And that heel joint looks really nice, actually, on the back. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it looks much better from the back. It looks, it's
just
interesting.
Like Chris.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it, kind of the word I'm thinking of is it kind of just seems like a shame because looking at the specifications of what the bass is, it seems like a really good bass. Like it's got a bone, it's got a bone nut. Bartolini pickups, the free band preamp, which is obviously really great. A lot of basses, a lot of like these kind of basses, depending on the price, of course, tend to come with just a 2-band preamp. Yeah. So having control of the mids is great. It's just the body's a little bit hanging, really.
Yeah, I think so. And they price wise, they're around £870. I'm seeing online. Some places got it up for 1,070. Crikey.
Yeah,
but
and that's not a bad price.
I don't think so either. I don't know. I mean, it's Court, so they're going to be made in Indonesia, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is good because if this was an American-made instrument, that would be, 1,800 quid, I reckon, with those specs and stuff. Interestingly, though, I've just this came up as like, brand new news item this week. I'm trying to look at videos online. Some videos came out in like March about this thing, so maybe this is like super old news. But I saw everybody reporting on it like now, and Court have got it on their homepage on their website. Maybe it's just like an updated version or something. And this is nothing new, but looks like they've re-released them somewhat. So go to their website, check it out for yourself. Not for me overall though. Okay, let's move on to what's probably the biggest bit of news for this week. And that is Sire. Sire, good friends, Sire, love Sire. They have released a load of new versions of their currently existing bass range. They really confused me with this launch because I was like, wait, what? Are these new? Are these the same? What's going on here? So their range is a little bit confusing in the way that they name things, I think. Basically, it's a V if it's a jazz bass. It's a P if it's you guessed it, P bass. M if it's their like double humbucker bass. U for their short scale, and then D for like the the 50s P bass. But they've released new V and P basses throughout their price range. So this is what was really cool. They initially put out an Instagram post saying, new bass coming, and it looked like it was one of the high-end ones, and I was like, oh, cool, not really going to be for me because it's going to cost like loads of money, but hey, that's fine. But they surprised me and released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new models. Flipping loads. So we've got previously their lowest range one jazz bass was a V3. We've now got a V3P, which is a passive version of their bottom range instrument, which I really like Sire, but one thing that I'm always like, not so great is like loads of preamp knobs on there. I get put off a little bit where I'm like, I've got preamp on my board, I've got preamp on my amp, I've got preamp on my bass. If it's not like super simple, I'm like, it just is like a bit of a creativity suck for me. So it's cool to see that they're, I think, listening to people and doing some passive versions throughout the price range. Because the V5R has got that as well, completely passive. And the V8, the V10, we got loads. P5 has got that was already passive, but that's got a new version, which is crazy. And what's really, really interesting about all these is that they have now got their they used to call it rolled fretboard edges, but then now they've rebranded it as edgeless. New edgeless fretboards, which is they've got no edge on them. And have you played a rolled fretboard edge bass before, Chris?
No, I haven't actually. I was looking at this earlier, and it seems like it sounds really cool. Like I'd really like to try it. Although it was funny when I saw it initially. It immediately reminded me of the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, the mobile phone from like 2015. I used to sell phones for a living, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, that's like those Samsungs from like 6 years ago." But but yeah, I mean, seriously though, Sire just killing it, man. Like, in a day and age where I feel like a lot of brands are doing the wrong things sometimes, I think, or rehashing a product which didn't need to be rehashed, or releasing something that just nobody really wants, or or expanding the product range top end. Going for more and more bespoke, American made, etc., etc. I feel like Sire have looked at all the market and gone, cool, I'm gonna do this, and then they just bring out these really great products. Like, I've only played one for about 5 seconds, but for the price, I really think you'll struggle to beat them now. Price.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk. I think they are one of the best brands out there for that at the minute. They're always a safe bet. And like, when it comes to things like quality control, compared to their competitors, they're just so much better, I think. And yeah, good for them. They're doing great things, and it's cool that they've expanded this. And listening to people, they've got all these new colors in here as well. I'm trying to find. So they released one the other day, and I posted it on my Instagram being like, holy moly, look at this color. It was like a champagne jazz bass. And I tell you what, I'm struggling to find it now. Maybe they were like, oh, good one, Johnny. Let's get rid of that.
Johnny likes that one. That's the one we're going to get rid of.
Yeah.
You said like a champagne. Interesting.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the P5, sorry, it's weird on there. The P5R. That was the one I was just thinking about. The P bass with the the P5R with the like natural wood finish.
Mm-hmm.
That looks fantastic.
So for me, the only thing I would do to that is, I don't know, I do love the torque guard, but I would maybe change it to black. Then, with that roasted maple neck and that body, I'm all here.
They've also
I haven't seen.
Oh, it's sold out. Actually, I'm looking at the wrong one here. There's the P5 in red, like Ferrari red, which
that was part of the last range, because I've got the minty green one.
Yeah, exactly. But that red one, I'm a big P fan, and obviously his signature bass is like a Ferrari red P bass, and I don't think I'll ever be able to afford one or warrant buying one, but to pick one of these up for about £600, is that right?
Less than that, I think. They're about
less than that.
500, I think, for the 4-string. Anyway, I'm gonna do that thing. Sorry, everybody. I'm gonna find out what the name of it was, because I was obsessed with it the other day, and I need to make sure that they haven't got rid of it. Because if they have, I'm gonna be angry.
Did you say is it in the jazz range?
It's the V5. Yeah, it's just the standard V5. They'd like slipped a new color in there. Is it there? Hang on a minute.
I'm gonna go look.
It's not there.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh my god. So they got a... Right. I'm going to show this to you now, Chris. Sorry, everyone at home.
I'm ready. Oh my.
See that?
That is... that's quite nice.
Yeah. Fully roasted maple neck on there, the black block inlays. That I saw that and was like, oh my god, I want that now.
I didn't really get it when you said champagne finish, but now I am. It's kind of like it's like a warm grey. If that makes sense.
It's like a mix between gold and silver.
Yeah, it looks like that looks
kind of like. Yeah. I love shoreline gold. Like, that's one of my favorite colors, and this looks like a slightly sparklier version of that. And Sire, don't do this. We've had fallings out before, Sire, okay? Don't do this to me again.
You tease.
God damn it. But yeah, go and check out all the new stuff. It's really easy to find on their website where it's all new. They've got loads of new guitars as well, but again, we won't talk about that. But yeah, Sire, absolutely killing it. And interesting that you said about companies like rehashing or just redoing the same thing. That brings me on to the next bit of news, which is Fender have released some new, quote, new guitars, because we've got the American Vintage 2 range that has come out now. Now, this is across the range, so it's all guitars, basses, and all different shapes and sizes that you could hope for. I say that, there's only 2 basses. No, hang on. I'm wrong. There are 3 basses out. And yeah. Okay, I know what they're going for. It's just like another vintage reissue, right? So we've got a 1960 P bass, a 1966 jazz bass, a left-handed 66 jazz bass, and then the 1954 P bass. All come in slightly different colors. The best color, I think, is the American jazz bass because it comes in this insane-looking surf green with a matching headstock. Pretty cool. But it 2,150 quid.
This is a big thumbs down for me. Big thumbs down. Like the only thing that like tickles my pickle even slightly is the 54 precision bass. Just because like I'm a big Sting guy, not Stingray, I am that too, but Sting, the Geordie. And I really like he's got like tobacco burst P bass, which just looked a bit like, but then again his is more of a normal P with no pick guard, relict. But I just like taking these. I mean, the 54 P bass is $2,500. The 60s P bass is $2,000, and then jazz bass 66 jazz is $2,299. At what level? Like what number is this just hype? You know, like kind of like for me, this could be a £1,400 bass that stuck £800 on because shine. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to Fender, if you're listening, obviously you're kind of like the thing that started everything. You know, we're not bashing you. Well, I am, but your legacy is undefeatable. But this is just a bit like, why? You know, like why did you need to do this?
Yeah, I feel like I'm always sick of that when we get the vintage reissue of this again. There we go. And there will be people out there that are super hyped for this. One thing I've seen on that vintage or the 54p is the bridge. It's gone back to that 2-saddle thing, but it's not like a metal brass saddle. It looks... I'm trying to see what it's made out of on the zoomed in picture. I don't really know the heritage of that bridge. All I know is I don't like it because you can't control the saddles individually, really. It's all you control 2 at a time, basically. So it makes it a lot harder to set the intonation. And get the it is a lot harder. I have a Telecaster guitar with the got 3 saddles for 6 strings. And it is perfectly doable. You can set it, but it's one of those where it's like if you want a Floyd Rose strings go, the whole guitar is dead because the balancing act of 6 strings versus the springs of the whammy bar are now out of balance. And it was a similar problem with that. Like I think I pinked the B string and it just dropped the low E down. So it's like, right, well, I've lost both actually now, not just 2. And then you can't really balance that on the fly. But yeah, like this, like, you know, I'm not saying Fender are like terrible or anything like that. Certainly not. But this is kind of like compared to what we were just talking about with Sire. Yeah. I mean, Sire do these basses. Yeah, they don't have Fender on the headstock. But I bet if you did a shootout, you know, like a blind test, surely it can't be that far. Considering the build quality of Sire now, especially for price. Mm-hmm. And in terms of feel as well, like those Sire basses feel phenomenal, even like the ones that are like low mid-range. So there does come a point, obviously, where costs goes out the window a little bit and you're not really paying, you know, your value for money's gone above like, I don't know, like 1,500 quid maybe. Like you said, like how much more can you justify adding on? What? I've just read up the saddles are fiber saddles, pure vintage apparently. So that must have been what they're like on the first one. I don't know the tonal benefits of that or if there are any. But
they're made of bales of hay.
Yeah, might as well be. That'll be $3,000, please.
Exactly. Like I think, to be fair, like I think the reason why me and you don't like them is they're just not marketed to me and you.
No, like, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, I think these are like much more of a collector's thing. It's like Gibson. Gibson doesn't really have a deal now because they market themselves as a brand more. I would say now. I think Fender are doing the same. Like, you know, Like I have a Fender Stratocaster, and it's like that was, but I got a Fender, not a Mexican one, an American one, for my 21st birthday. It's a Fender. It's not almost to the point where, is it a tool or is it an ornament? These kind of things, and all my stuff needs to be tools now. If I'm not making money in some way off the bass, I shouldn't really be owning it.
Yeah, that's how I kind of look at it as well. I've rarely got one that just sits there doing nothing, which is why people are like, "Why did you sell that?" Why? Like, I buy and sell all the time. It's because of exactly that I have to get new stuff in, and because if it's not getting used, better off being used somewhere else.
Very true.
We'll talk more about Fender later on, but with these ones, like you say, they're just not for us because they're not marketed this way. I've got friends that I speak to in person and online that absolutely love these and will absolutely love it, and that's absolutely nothing against them because fair enough, it's just so far out of my reach that I'll never find that appeal, I don't think. But that is all of our news, jam-packed news, like I said. Let's move on to question number 2. Okay, question number 2 comes from Syncornio on Instagram, who says opinion on different shapes like the Explorer, Flying V, and Iceman. So I picked this question for a very specific reason, and I'm sure you'll know why. Because I have just obtained an Explorer bass, which we will listen to a bit later on. And I never, I'm such a traditionalist when it comes to aesthetics for bass. I know I just said I don't like the same reissue, but I really like vintage looking basses and just like a P bass. I love the way P bass looks. I love a Stingray. I love a Jazz. I rarely like wacky shapes, and that's why Iceman to me. No thanks. Flying V. Not for me. Explorer. Not for me. Until now.
Hypocrite.
I know, exactly. Hey, I'm growing, okay? I'm learning to accept.
This is a learnable moment. I feel we've grown together.
This is a non-judgmental space.
This is a safe space. You idiot.
You absolute bloody pleb.
I gotta say, it's a hard disagree on the Iceman.
Oh really? Oh.
So there's 2 bits of heritage here. So my favorite band is Metallica. Yeah. So Explorers, big thumbs up. Explorer. We were just talking about brands and the collectibleness of stuff. If I was to ever to be very financially well off and I wanted to collect an instrument, it would be a Gibson Flying V or maybe more likely a Gibson Explorer.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of the ones James Hetfield had in the 90s, like the ESP one or the Truckster, and all these kind of things. That's because that's childhood awe for me, basically. But I really rate the Iceman, mainly because I'm a really big Kiss fan. I'm a really big fan of Kiss. Paul Stanley plays an Iceman, and also to be fair, Paul Gilbert has the Fireman, which I don't know if are you familiar with that?
Fireman? No, is that a?
It's great. This is pure Partridge, in my opinion. So Paul Gilbert's signature Ibanez model. What he did was he took the shape of an Iceman, which has the long horn at the bottom, and just inverted it so the horn is at the top. But it still works though, because it's got a longer horn on the top where the strap button is, and then a much shorter. A really short cutaway with a little horn on the bottom, which just looks like it would make sense. It's kind of just big enough for you to rest it on your knee and you can practice normally, but it's small enough to not really ruin the shape. It's a really cool instrument, but yeah, Flying V.
It's a bit like an artist's impression of a guitar. Like if you described it and they didn't know what a guitar looked like and they drew it.
Exactly. But yeah, no. I've spoken more about guitars here, but on bass, I could definitely do an Explorer bass. This is kind of the Thunderbird falls into this as well, I would say, despite being a more modest version of the Explorer.
But that's the thing, and that's the same with the Iceman as well. You can clearly see that the elongated sections, it's like an extreme version of it, I think. And I, I've always liked Thunderbirds as well, and I think Thunderbirds are a gateway drug into these wacky shapes because it's the most conservative of those. And I think it depends on guitars and basses as well, because I think some shapes really work on guitar where they don't work on bass. The SG, for instance, I've never really found that I've enjoyed SG basses or Les Paul basses either, unless they're shrunken down a little bit, like the Gretsch that I had. I just don't really like that. It looks a bit odd. And I always thought the same with the Explorer, because it's only in the recent years I've actually been enjoying the Explorer as a guitar. Like, I always liked Firebirds and stuff like that. So yeah, I only started like it then. And then when I was actually looking to buy a Thunderbird online, is when the Explorer came up, and I was like, huh, that's in my town.
Oh no.
Yeah. That's
I'm in danger.
I'm in trouble here. Oh dear. Yeah. Help me, Mr. Bank account. So I decided to go and get it. And yeah, it's so fun to play, and I don't know, it just inspires something a little bit different out of you, which is what I'm always looking for. So I think it does definitely bring its own flavor and earn its spot in my arsenal at the minute, I think. Even if it was just like a gimmick, like, oh, look at that, that's pretty cool. I still really enjoy having it. And I'm very, fortunate to be able to afford to do something like that on a whim, but yeah, I'm enjoying the spiky lifestyle now. I just need the like leather trousers and big hair and like a sleeveless denim jacket or something, and I'm off. I'll be done. But yeah, that's kind of where I am at the minute. I'm getting there with spiky shapes.
I think I prefer the more boisterous shapes on a guitar as opposed to a bass. I think I do. The only exception to this is I like the Thunderbird shape on bass as opposed to the Firebird on guitar. I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
I like that, but if someone told me, would you rather have an Explorer bass or guitar? I'd take guitar. But I think, there are a lot of bass shapes that I don't like. And I agree with what you're saying. Like, I'm not too hot on the Les Paul bass. I just, the Gretsch ones that like Curve Royal Blood play, they're quite nice, but I don't love them. Really, I'm not the biggest fan of the SG bass, but I'm also not the biggest fan of an SG anyway, just in general. But in terms of shape that I really don't like, it's more on the modern side of things. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of the shape that a lot of the sort of like headless companies go for now. I used to be, rewind 2 years ago, and I really wanted, the headless, the EHB, the headless Ibanez. Yeah. Really wanted one of those, and I still kind of want one, but I don't rate the body now. But like, looking back at it over time, it looks a bit like a fad now. Then I guess in terms of modern basses that I still really like the shape of, I think Dingwall do a really good job of the shapes of the basses, because they are modern, of course, modern bass with a contemporary sound, like the NG3 or the D-Rock or the D-Bird, but the styling of them is quite classic, and I think that's probably because Sheldon Dingwall's like a big like muscle racing car guy.
Yeah, they're still quite conservative and sleek looking, as opposed to being boisterous and loud and like their sound would suggest. They're not going down the BC Rich route. I think I totally agree with a lot of those shapes, and with like a Flying V. I'd take a guitar over a Flying V bass any day. But I think that also comes down to size, like body size. Like, this Explorer is no small thing; it's huge. And of course that adds weight as well. So when the more wacky your body shapes start getting, the more distance it's covering. So you start getting these absolute behemoth bits of wood that you're playing. So Yeah, I feel like that plays a part for me as well sometimes when it looks a little bit wrong if it's in a different scale. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger, isn't it, at the end of the day? Which I think maybe why I think I do lean towards a more like classic styling of the shape of a bass, because it's just so big anyway. But guitar-wise, it's a bit smaller. You've got a lot more room to play with. I was going to say guitarists tend to be more extroverted on stage than bass players, but every guitarist who's played a gig with me has literally gone, you need to chill out, mate. Like, you need to, like, why are you stood on the bar? Like, what is going on here, pal? So
yeah,
maybe that's why I like to play like a jazz bass, to balance out boisterousness.
Yeah, that's often my thing as well, where I'm going a bit mad, which is why I really want to gig. I've got a gig in November, and I really want to take the Explorer.
You've got to do it. You've got to do it.
It's a Nirvana gig as well, so it kind like sound wise, it'll fit. Look wise, it might fit a little bit. I know we had some Gibson RDs and Thunderbirds, of course.
Oh, well, if Chris Fingy played a Thunderbird, you can absolutely get away with an Explorer. It's close enough. I mean, doing the Foo Fighters with an Explorer bass is a power move, I would say.
Yeah. We'll stick to the P bass for that one.
Yeah, or you can lend it to me, and I've got a wedding at the weekend, and I'll happily rock that at a wedding.
We'll be like, wow, look at this guy.
I'm upstaging the bride. Look at this face.
It's white as well.
I'm wearing white.
Oh, God. Now get that man out. I'm going to propose to someone else.
Put that thing back where it came from. So help me.
So help me.
And cuts.
Incredible. Right. And with that, let's move on to our next segment. Okay, we've spoken about Explorers, and now let's listen to one. This segment is called That Tone You Own. I have brought along a tone to listen to this week, and I have just whipped together some different sounds that I've just been playing with the Explorer. And yeah, let's have a listen to that right now. There we have it. A bit of mix of effects going on here. We've got some kind of thrashy sounding distortion. Suck the low end out a little bit. We've got some bit like a scoopy but big bottom end sound, and then some like reverby sounds as well. Because I was actually quite surprised with the kind of sounds that this Explorer kind of inspired within me. I kind of sat down for an hour with the 968 Jack Stomp and just created a preset and had a bit of fun with it. And this bass has surprised me. So I'll start with talking about the pickups, because on all of these sound clips, the pickup configuration is just on the bridge.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought the bridge was going to sound awful. I was like, oh, with this kind of style of humbucker, I was like, I'm only really going to like them both together, I think. Contradictory to what we were saying earlier about, single pickups. But on this kind of style, I was like, yeah, it's probably going to sound best for them together. The neck was a bit flubby sounding, I thought. Together, I was like, oh yeah, that's give me that slightly more humbuckery sound. And then the bridge, I was super surprised. It was really well defined and gave me more of the sound that I was after. A bit more high ends that you'd expect, but yeah, I was really enjoying it. It's the first bass that isn't a Music Man where I've gone, yeah, okay, bridge humbucker, nice. So I was surprised at that. Going on, then we had a Rat Distortion, like I said, in a Nirvana band. The Rat is super famous with that bass tone, so I had that on a split channel and just seeing what that sounded like. Sucked some low end out, but I think this bass actually really suits that sound. It got more like guitar sound. What were your first impressions of that, like those distortion sounds, Chris?
I think you are right. They did sound very guitar-y, especially the first two. But like you said, I think it really suits that kind of thing. Like, it was really, I just thought the mid-range on it sounded really good. And I think you could definitely, I could see if you were recording or playing live with that, especially for like a Nirvana thing you were saying, I think that would suit very, very well. And then if you were recording with that sound and you were really missing some low end, blend a bit of DI back in, it would sound great. Yeah, I was really impressed actually. Like, I didn't think it was going to sound that good, but I'm really impressed. The mid range, in particular, really, it's really
super,
nice.
It's super pokey, which isn't what I was expecting at all. I was expecting it to be a bit flubby and a bit like a wet fart, but it was a nice sounding fart, I thought. Don't get me wrong, this isn't my favourite sounding bass I've got or anything, or like, it's not a tone I normally gravitate towards to be my like go-to tone when I think of a bass tone. But like I said, it earns its place at the minute because it's a bit of a different sound and different vibe. Contrary to that, this bass has made me get into reverb more. Playing some like really staccato style notes, I think it sounds, with that pokey mid-range, I think it sounds really, really nice. And almost kind of like vintage sounding. It's from 1999, this bass, but it's not particularly vintage, I suppose. But yeah, I was really enjoying having a little bit of reverb on there and a tiny bit of delay. Not much decay on there, so it ends super quick, but it gives this kind of big room sound when you play. And yeah, I was really enjoying it. And how can a bass inspire this thrashy, distorted guitarish sound and then that as well? I don't understand. Very strange indeed. But yeah, that is my Explorer. I will be doing a video on it at some point, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talk about it more because there's good things about it, there's not so good things about it, and it's an adventure. So maybe after I do this gig, I'll do a video. That might be interesting.
Yeah, I think you should. And have some stuff from the gig.
Yes,
definitely. You've got to. I will say though, if you're doing a Nirvana gig with that, you don't have the strap on the lowest setting. If you have this becomes my podcast, Johnny. I'll be watching eagerly. I'll be taking over.
It's going to be touching the floor, that thing, I think.
It's got to be. If you don't break something or someone with it, turning around.
Well, it's got so much neck dive that I think I might poke my own eye out with the thing on it. I weirdly, my Gordon has a bit of neck dive, only a little bit. I kind of like it. Yeah?
In a weird way, because I've kind of stopped gripping the neck as hard.
Okay.
Because I know the weight of the headstock will bring the neck down onto the palm of my hand, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because I guess with some of my other basses, whatever position I leave it in, it will stay because it's a much more balanced instrument. Whereas that one will drop down slightly, so you get it. I don't know. It seems like a weird thing, but I was like, oh, I thought I'd hate this. As soon as I realised it dove, I'm like, oh, not that bad actually.
It dove? Is that a word?
Dived?
I'm not criticising your English, but I just never dove. I love that.
You silly northern man.
He's gone and dove. Look at that bird out there. Is it a dove?
You still sound southern. I know you were trying to bring it up to my level, but you need to get yourself on the M6.
So, yeah, I'm more of an M5 man myself. You see, a lot of crashes on the M5. Actually, it's very bad.
Yeah. One happened once in front of me on the way home from a gig.
Oh God.
Well, the police had just closed the road as I got to it, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I was near, I don't know, somewhere between like Bristol and Cheltenham kind of way. I was on the M5, and I was just sat there with the 2 other people I was in the car with for about 2 hours, just sat with the engine off. And then we continued up, and I got home at about 5:30 in the morning.
Lovely.
Yeah,
well,
good times.
How inconsiderate those people are, actually.
Selfish.
Ridiculous. Right, before it offends anyone else, let's move on to the big bass debate. Now it is time for the big bass debate. This is where we take a question and answer it a little bit more in a bit more in depth, if you like. This one comes from Big Poik on Instagram. I love Big Poik. Says, are Fenders still worth the money?
I think we've already answered this. Right, we can leave it. Yeah, Thank you for coming, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. We kind of did touch on this a little bit earlier. So this might be a small bass debate, as we've kind of covered a lot of that ground. I think, personally for me, talking about Sire really reminded me like how a company like that is flourishing, doing so well, still taking the inspirations of Fender, but taking it to that next level. And that is where I think it starts to leave companies like Fender in the dust a little bit. When you start looking at functionality and how they're improving things like that, and not just like, here's a new color, or like, here's a new reissue, or here's a new slightly thing. You know, I like it when Fender do something daring and something new. I'm all for that because it just pushes innovation. I think that is where you might think, is Fender really still worth the money anymore? I just think other brands are doing a bit more exciting things sometimes.
I think for me and you, and maybe other people in similar positions to us, I don't think they're as valuable to us as other brands could be. I mean, the big thing for me is like, is the value for money, because having played a lot of Squier basses, Mexican basses, and American basses, for me, the increase in cost from American to Mexican isn't worth it sometimes. I mean, I say this, the Strat I've got, the American Strat, is very good, but it's biased because I got it as a gift from a relative. So it's like, if that was my money out of my pocket, would I spend that extra amount for an instrument of maybe, I don't know, 15% higher quality, but the same sound, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
And I think especially when it's quite good timing that we've spoken about a brand like Sire at the same time we're having this discussion, because as a working musician, I need the best sound and the most reliable sound for the cheapest cost. Ultimately, I gig with a lot of people who take expensive equipment to gigs, and they sound fantastic. I've also played gigs with people who bring very expensive instruments to gigs, and they sound like crap because they're not very good musicians. But I also I've got friends who gig with, the bottom of the barrel Epiphone guitars and things like the Sires and stuff like that. Sub £500 instruments, and sound great as well. And I think I just don't think Fender are particularly their American range anymore. Same with Gibson, really, and to an extent the American PRSs. They're not marketed at the working musician. They're marketed either at a musician who want to play a very high quality instrument, or non-musician who wants to collect something high value, or someone who's really into a brand. I want a Fender. I don't want a Mexican Fender. I want the real deal.
And I think brand name comes into it so much, you know,
massively.
Like even with like Squier now, that is such a big brand that you start paying a lot for even that name compared to other brands,
which is so weird.
Yeah,
considering it's like I don't know how expensive Epiphones go these days, but they go pretty spenny. They go well over, you know, they must be touching on £1,000 now. There must be an overlap where, well, there must be. Is there an overlap with Fender's Mexican range, where the top of the range Mexican will be more expensive than a cheaper American?
So the Player Plus, that is over £1,000. The thing is, now cost of living and everything, and coronavirus, the cost of everything has gone through the roof. So I think even the American stuff now has been bumped up again, which is why maybe those Fenders we looked at earlier are so expensive again, because the cost of, we're just seeing that go up and up and up.
And also, I think another interesting point is, again, just while Fender's down, those models we were looking at in particular that were around the $2,200 range. That's a mass-produced instrument. You know, it's not a bespoke instrument. For £1,000 more, which I know is a third more, but it is a third. It's not loads more. You're on the way to that Ball family range we were just talking about as well, where they're only making 40 of them.
Or
you're actually
Fender Custom Shop.
You're actually in custom instrument territory above $2,000, like something like Alpha Guitars, who make guitars and basses. I think their stuff starts in the early to mid 2000s, maybe.
I'm an idiot. Sorry. I've just realised that I've left an item out of the news that I didn't write down.
Oh no.
Well,
we can still cover it. Let's do it.
We can still cover it.
I think are we in agreement that we've covered what we need to do about this bass debate?
I will say one more thing about Fender is that I think that there is, you know, like you say, it's a Fender. They hold their value. I think that is one super positive thing about brands like that, is that like even like Mexican Fenders go for like, you know, they still hold their value pretty well. I think you see them like £400 or £500 at the minute. Depends on the year, of course. But Squiers as well, they sell really well and they hold their value really well.
Interesting, yeah.
Whereas like some other brands, not so much. Maybe with Sire, they don't quite have that recognition, or it's just not quite the same. And there is, you know, we say all this, I am still a Fender lover overall. Like you said, they've got that heritage that we're so grateful for, and they are the foundations of what it is. And if I just had a Fender on my wall and that was it, I would be happy, you know, as long as it was a good one. You know, I could work with that and it would be good, I'm sure. But I just think other brands do more interesting things. And, you know, the brand name is becoming the thing that you're paying for more than the actual quality of instrument that you're getting, particularly when it comes to quality control with things like Squier now as well.
Yeah, as you very well know.
Yes, exactly. The Contemporary Series 5-string P I've got on my wall has not been the most joyous bass to experience, and people have been seeing that across the globe. I've seen people having issues with that one as well, so it wasn't just an isolated incident.
That's not what you want for a brand of that scale. Like I would absolutely understand if it was a smaller company, and you know what, they wouldn't even have to be huge. I mean, I know Sire are obviously a big company, a lot smaller than Fender. You know, for a company like Sire to have such good quality control, and then a huge company like Fender to not have good quality control for that price as well is not a good look.
Well, that's where, you know, like I said, the brand name is carrying that price tag, because and there's only so long that can go on for in terms of reputation, where people start going, actually, going to look elsewhere. And you know, there's, to their credit, also not credit, but backing them up a little bit, I suppose. The more they grow and the more they mass produce, the more they take over that market, of course, quality control is going to go down, because there's going to be more that slip through the cracks.
Of course,
or there's less people to put up with it, and the wages of those people are not high enough, you know, for particularly the
that's very true, especially in the gap between the Mexican range and the American range. Like, if for anyone listening, if you're struggling to realize why the Mexican bass is cheaper than the American one, because they're paying the people in the Mexican factory quite a bit less.
And then go over to Indonesia and China, even less again.
Even less.
You know,
yeah,
so that's where the biggest cost savings are coming from.
Yeah.
So of course, when that happens, you're gonna get more discrepancies in the bases and issues coming up.
Yeah,
and that's
for sure. Yeah,
and that's might not be a fault of the person who's operating that machine or checking that. It just they're overrun, a lot of the time, or underpaid. Anyway, yes. What was I saying? Fenders.
You had another item of news you wanted to discuss.
Oh yes, we'll park the Fender conversation there. They continue to go up and down, I think. But my last bit of news is like we said about Alpha. They've launched a new sub-brand of more affordable instruments. So they are called Feral Guitars. So they're making custom guitars and basses. I think Alpha are based near, I wouldn't say Bedford, but I might be wrong about that.
No. I think they're in Yorkshire. They're near Keighley, West Yorkshire.
You're right.
Yeah.
They are North Yorkshire.
North Yorkshire.
I'm thinking about Pedalboard Company that's
okay.
from there. I love Alpha instruments. I think they are so cool. They
Can I request
balance.
Can I request that you, considering you got the location of a proud Yorkshire company wrong, that you do the rest of this section in a Yorkshire accent, please?
Oh no, I don't think I could do that. So
you just went lower.
So now we've got these feral. I'm just going posher now. Feral. I'll stop that before I offend any more people. Feral basses with a PH. It's like a sub-brand making more affordable versions. So they're also going to be making more of these. Slightly different designs, not quite so high quality woods or components, a bit more simple. But I've been talking to those guys, and yeah, I'd love to check one out. I think it's a really good idea. Alpha is such an attractive brand to me, but the price tag is just beyond anything I can imagine being able to justify my head spending on a guitar.
And there's a reason for that, isn't there? You know, if you're only gonna, is it one guy? Is it one or two guys? It's a small company. If it's such a niche, small, base of operation, building bespoke things, with high quality materials, everything's Aguilar and all. I remember correctly, and
woods
really insane quality woods. There's a reason why the price is that.
100%.
I think it's very easy to look at a custom instrument like that and go, why is it bloody $2,000? Why is it $3,000? But there's it's because it's one guy building it himself, and it takes a long time to build.
Yeah, the quantities of scale from that production line are not there. It's so much time and not little hands as in size-wise, as in like little number of hands going on it is what brings that up. And I think that's totally justified for a company like that. I just mean that I cannot personally afford.
It's just the overall number, isn't it? Like I know what you mean. It's like I don't doubt the quality of the instrument, even having never played one. Just looking at the thing, tell it's good. But very unlikely that I'll be able to purchase one seeable. But I don't know. Yeah. I guess it's how many times you wear it. It's like I used to buy and sell. Well, I used to sell luxury watches for a living. That was like one of my many jobs I've had.
I wondered what you were sharing a lot of watches recently on Instagram. I was like,
yeah. So I used to sell them for a living, and then I run like events for people who are into watches, essentially up in my neck of the woods. Essentially, it's just an excuse for drinking, but it's like we all have a watch collection thing in common. But probably worth noting that it's not a price thing. I think watches are the same as instruments. A £60 Timex can be just as cool as a £200,000 Langerns. For example, it's not about the price tag; it's about the story behind it. The same with, my Squire jazz bass. I bought it for £70, but I've done hundreds of shows with it. I've beaten the crap out of it, and it's like I know this bass very well, and it's got a lot of sentimental value. Whereas if you stuck a if you stuck something else in front of me, like a really high-end Fender, a custom instrument, if I don't get along with it, I don't get along with it. End of.
Yeah, and like a $5,000, $10,000 bass doesn't guarantee that you're going to absolutely love that thing. Like, you might do because you're like, shit, I've spent a lot of money on this, but it's not like this is quality. This is going to work for me. You'll still need a setup at the end of the day.
You're putting the same £35 strings on it as I am.
Absolutely. Well, you won't be able to afford elixirs, so you'll be putting.
Actually,
like...
yeah, I was going to say if you buy a £3,000 custom instrument, you're probably stringing it with cheese string.
Yeah, with how much you've got left, it's floss.
It's literally floss. You've like coiled floss together.
But then, and also because you can't afford more floss, you're doing your teeth with it as well.
Exactly. But you're just breaking the strings in there.
Yeah,
fine.
Exactly.
Got a bit of plaque on the D string. Let me just write that off.
Well, lovely placky tone.
Yeah,
this one.
This tone's got some real teeth to it.
Oh God. Oh. So with these basses, they are like the classic Alpha shape, but slightly more angular. They look like a bit like an 8-bit version of it, I think. And they've got, I'm just reading it now. Oh, it's called the Hammerhead bass model. Full name. Carina body, roasted maple necks, ebony fingerboard, abalone inlays, and that hip shot hardware, gold, aluminium layered pick guard. So much, different colors, variations coming soon, and a TV Jones style pickup. So quite a unique instrument.
They look great. They look great. Do you know? I'm going to call it the decrease in price. Like, what's the scale if it's a slightly lesser? And this sounds rude. If it's a slightly lesser quality instrument, not to imply it's bad quality. I just mean, if the full fat Alpha custom range is a 10, and this is a 7. Basically, do you have a price range for me?
Do you know what? I bloody do. So these are going to be around sub 1,500. So
that's not bad.
So they're still, it's still a lot more expensive than a lot of basses out there that you can get. But for a company like that is phenomenal. Like the price of that, I wasn't really expecting that at all. I thought it was gonna be like, oh yeah, this one's $2,000, but no.
We've knocked a tenner off.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, really, really cool. And I'd love to try one day because I think it's a really cool company and I like supporting it.
Well, Alpha, if you're listening, I will go pick one up because I'm an hour away. I'll try it and then I'll let Johnny know if it's good or not, and then he can do a video based on.
And you have me a react video, basically.
Exactly. You can just react to me on FaceTime to you going, aye, it's a bit good, this. Oh, the neck's bloody lovely.
I go, oh, where's that from? Bedford? Lovely.
Tally-ho. Monty, where's this new bass from? Smashing.
I'm confused. Is this your impression of me?
No, because you sound like, to me, you sound like West Country.
Oh, brilliant. Do you know what? I'm kind of glad about that because often I feel like I don't have an accent, or like sometimes it will come through.
Oh no, you sound like the entire cast of Hot Fuzz to me.
Oh, excellent. That's
all right, my love.
Well, to be fair, I do say that a lot.
There we go. Exactly. Just rolled straight into it, whereas I just sound like Phoenix Nights over and over again.
Well, with that, I'm going to bring a close podcast. We've just reached about an hour and 20 minutes, and that is absolutely banging. Chris, thank you so much for agreeing and putting up with all my knob jokes and snickering behind the scenes. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here as per.
It's been well worth it. The broken knobs, the PP, it's all good fun. It's all absolutely worth it.
Absolute gold, and so many memories being made along the way.
Absolutely. Live, laugh, love.
Oh,
like, share, subscribe.
I might start putting live, laugh, love on the end instead.
Live, laugh, love. Like, share, subscribe.
If you've got one of those signs in your house, you're going to have to unsubscribe, I think. We can't be friends.
Oh, I haven't shown you my new tattoo. Hang on a minute.
Oh, no.
It's on my PP. Oh!
Hey! All right. Chris, sell yourself. Not in that way. Sell yourself online. Where can people find you? What can they do?
It's that guy on bass everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I have Twitter, but I don't really use it apart from ranting about the current political climate in this country, so probably don't follow me on there. But yeah, all the usual social places, that guy on bass. That is me.
Wonderful. And that guy on podcast now.
Absolutely.
If you want to get involved with the podcast, head over to it's my Instagram at the minute. At Johnny Dibble on Instagram on my stories. That's where I often will put up the poll where you can submit your questions for the two very handsome fellows on here to answer it. I said that in third person like I was talking about something else, but really I'm talking about myself and you. Thank you so much to everybody that has submitted questions so far. It is a massive, massive help, and yeah, I absolutely love reading them. And you guys come up with some good stuff as well. Some stuff that I hadn't thought about and has expanded my mind. So thank you so much. Don't forget to rate this 5 stars if you had a good time in your listening platform of choice, or if you're watching on YouTube, give it a like, give it comment down below. Is there anybody else that you think should replace Chris? Or do you think any other guests that we should have on?
I will be deleting all comments of that nature before Johnny reaches them.
Like to see you try. And yeah, leave us a comment down below. What do you think? Ask us some more questions. Bloody go for it. Go hell for leather. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.